first time I saw the silver car, I wasn't afraid. I was annoyed. It stayed behind me for almost 30 miles without ever getting closer, and I remember thinking it had to be one of those overly cautious drivers who hated passing on narrow roads. If I'd known that would be the last normal thought I'd have about that road, I would have turned around before sunset. 3 years ago, I worked as a freelance property photographer in the Scottish Highlands. My clients owned remote cottages, cabins, and small hotels that needed professional photos for rental websites. It wasn't glamorous, but I loved it. I spent most of my days alone, driving through mountains where the loudest sound was usually the wind. Late one October afternoon, my manager called with a last-minute booking. An elderly woman named Margaret wanted photos of her cottage near Glencoe before putting it on the market. "It'll be dark before you're done," he warned. "I'll manage." By the time I reached the cottage, the sky had turned a dull shade of gray. The mountains disappeared into low clouds, and thin ribbons of fog drifted across the valley. Margaret greeted me with surprising warmth. She looked to be in her late 70s, with silver hair tied neatly behind her head, and tired blue eyes that rarely blinked. "You came all this way," she said. "The least I can offer is tea." Inside, the cottage felt frozen in another decade. Old family photographs covered the walls. A fireplace crackled quietly. A grandfather clock ticked with such precision that I found myself listening to it between camera shutters. While I photographed each room, Margaret never left my sight. She wasn't watching my work. She was watching me. When I finished, she walked me to the front door. Outside, the fog had become noticeably thicker. Before I climbed into my car, she asked, "Will you be taking Glen Etive Road? That's the quickest way home." She nodded slowly. "Then there's something you should know." I smiled politely, expecting a warning about deer crossing or landslides. Instead, she said, "If a silver car appears behind you, don't acknowledge it." I laughed. "You mean don't stop for strangers?" "No." Her voice became almost a whisper. "I mean don't look for it. If it's behind you, don't keep checking your mirror. And whatever you do," she hesitated, "never stop at the crossroads." "The crossroads?" "You'll know which one." I almost asked another question, but she stepped back inside and quietly closed the door. The drive home began exactly as expected. Rain tapped gently against the windshield. The heater filled the car with warm air. A podcast played softly through the speakers. For nearly 40 minutes, I didn't see another vehicle. Then, without warning, headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. Warm yellow headlights, not modern white LEDs, older, softer, attached to a silver sedan. I glanced away, then looked back. Same distance. A minute later. Still there. I slowed from 50 to 45. The sedan slowed too. I accelerated. It matched me perfectly. Not gaining. Not falling behind. Always the same distance. I tried convincing myself it was coincidence. The Highlands were full of quiet drivers. Maybe we were simply headed in the same direction. Still. Margaret's words echoed in my head. Don't look for it. So I forced myself to keep my eyes on the road. A few minutes later, I reached the only major crossroads between Glencoe and the highway. Turning left led toward Fort William. Going straight continued onto an abandoned maintenance road that had officially been closed for years. Without thinking, I signaled left. As my car turned, I looked into the mirror one last time. The silver sedan didn't. It continued straight toward the fog without slowing. No brake lights, no turn signals. The fog swallowed it completely. I expected to see its headlights reappear beyond the intersection. They never did. Against my better judgment, I pulled onto the shoulder. Margaret's warning repeated itself in my head. Never stop at the crossroads. I looked back. The road was empty. No headlights, no engine, no tire noise, only silence. Curiosity won. I grabbed my flashlight and walked back toward the intersection. The asphalt was wet enough to preserve fresh tire marks. There weren't any. Not mine, not the sedan's. Nothing. 3 roads, 3 directions. One car that had somehow disappeared without taking any of them. Standing alone in the fog, I told myself there had to be a logical explanation. There always is. At least, that's what I believed before the second drive. For the next 12 days, I stayed away from Glen Idiv Road. Not because I believed Margaret, because I didn't want to admit I was thinking about a car that had probably never existed. Eventually, work pulled me back. Another property, another client, another road through the highlands. When I checked the address, my stomach tightened. The cottage was less than 3 miles from Margaret's. I almost declined. Instead, I convinced myself that daylight would make everything feel ridiculous. It didn't. The assignment took less than an hour. As I packed my camera, the owner asked an odd question. "Did Margaret warn you about the crossroads? You knew her. Everyone around here did. What did she tell you?" He looked toward the window before answering. "That depends." "On what?" "Whether you've already seen the car." I felt my pulse quicken. "What car?" He studied my face for a moment. Then he sighed. "So you have." Before I could ask another question, he reached into a drawer and handed me an old Polaroid. It showed the crossroads in thick fog. Nothing unusual, until I noticed the reflection in a puddle, a silver sedan. But there was no car on the road, only its reflection. I looked up. "When was this taken?" 26 years ago. I stared at the faded picture, the headlights, the shape. It was the same car, exactly the same. "It never changes," the man said quietly. "It only changes drivers." A nervous laugh escaped me. "That's not funny." I wasn't joking. He took the photograph back. Margaret's husband disappeared after he broke the rule. "What rule?" "The second time you see the car." He paused. "Don't stop, no matter what you think you see." The drive home began under a clear evening sky. No fog, no rain, no reason to feel afraid. I kept my eyes on the road. 10 minutes passed. Nothing. Then my dashboard clock blinked. 7:17 p.m. For just a second, every electronic display inside the car went black. Radio, GPS, climate controls, everything. A heartbeat later, they all came back. The clock still read. 7:17. It never moved again. The road stretched ahead in complete silence. Then warm yellow headlights appeared in my mirror. The silver sedan. Exactly the same distance. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I refused to look again. I remembered the rule. Don't acknowledge it. So I kept driving. Mile after mile. The headlights never moved. Then I noticed something impossible. Every roadside mile marker read the same number 17. I passed it once, then again. The GPS insisted I was making progress. The road insisted I wasn't. I reached for my phone. No signal, no maps, no service. Just one notification that hadn't been there before. Keep driving. No sender. No sound. The message disappeared before I could touch it. If you've ever driven alone at night and had that strange feeling that something wasn't quite right, you know how quickly your mind starts inventing explanations. Maybe I was exhausted. Maybe I was panicking. Maybe there was a fault with the electronics. If you've ever experienced something you still can't explain, let me know in the comments. I'd genuinely like to know I'm not the only one. I wish that had been the strangest part. A pair of headlights appeared ahead. Another car approached from the opposite direction. As it passed me, I glanced at the driver. An elderly woman, silver hair, blue eyes. Margaret. She looked directly at me, then pointed frantically toward my rearview mirror. by instinct. I looked. The silver sedan was closer, for the first time. Not by much, but enough to tell. I'd already broken the rule. My heart started pounding. It had moved, only a few feet. But for the first time, the distance between us wasn't the same.
Appears behind you,
I remembered Margaret pointing at the mirror.
don't acknowledge it.
Not at the car, at me, as if she were trying to warn me that looking back was the mistake. I gripped the steering wheel until my hands hurt and kept driving. The dashboard clock still read 7:17. It hadn't changed in nearly 20 minutes. Then the crossroads appeared through the darkness. The same intersection, the same wall of fog, the same empty maintenance road disappearing into nothing. I didn't slow down. I wasn't going to stop. Then I saw someone standing in the middle of the road.
Somebody
a
help
young
me!
woman. Her clothes were soaked. She waved both arms desperately. Please.
Please!
Help me.
Somebody help me!
Every instinct told me to brake, but another thought cut through the panic. This is exactly how rules get broken. I shut my eyes for half a second and drove past her. When I looked in the mirror, there was no woman. Only the silver sedan. Closer again. Its headlights filled almost the entire rear window. Then, for the first time, I could see through its windshield. There was a driver. I couldn't make out the face, only the outline of someone sitting perfectly still. The road bent left. The sedan didn't. It continued straight toward the abandoned road, exactly as it had the first night. Relief washed over me. It was leaving. Then my GPS spoke, not in its normal voice, in mine. Turn around. I froze. The screen went black. One sentence appeared. You stopped here last time. I had never stopped there before, had I? Fragments of memory flashed through my mind. Fog. A flashlight. Walking toward the crossroads. An open car door. Then, nothing. I slammed on the brakes. The silence was immediate. No engine, no wind, no insects. I was alone. The sedan was gone. So was the fog. The crossroads looked completely ordinary. Shaking, I stepped out of the car. The wet pavement reflected my headlights. Then I noticed something lying near the center line, an old camera memory card. Mine. I recognized the tiny scratch I'd made months earlier. It was impossible. I had replaced that card after photographing Margaret's cottage. With trembling hands, I put it into my camera. There was only one file. No timestamp, no date. I opened it. It was a photograph of the crossroads. Empty road, heavy fog. And standing beside my own car was me, facing the camera, looking terrified. The problem was, I was holding the camera that had taken the picture. Someone else had been standing behind it. I searched the image. There, in the reflection of my driver's side window, sat the silver sedan. Its headlights were off. Its driver's door was open. Inside, someone was watching me. I zoomed in. The image blurred, then sharpened. The driver wasn't older, wasn't younger. It was me, wearing the same jacket, the same watch, even the small scar on my chin. Only one thing was different. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking directly at me. A horn blasted behind me. I jumped. A passing truck sped through the intersection. The fog was gone. The road was busy again. When I looked back at the camera, the photograph had changed. The sedan was gone. So was the figure beside my car. The image showed an empty crossroads. Nothing more. I drove home before sunrise. The next morning, I searched for Margaret. The cottage had been demolished the previous winter. The local records showed she had died years before my assignment. No listing. No sale. No photographs. According to everyone I asked, the cottage hadn't been occupied for a very long time. I still work as a photographer. I still drive lonely roads. And every few months, my dashboard clock freezes at 7:17. When it does, I never check the mirror anymore because I finally understood the rule. The car never follows you. It waits for the moment you become the person who turns around. And sometimes, when I upload a day's photographs, I find one extra image, a picture I never remember taking. It's always the same crossroads, always the same fog. And every time the silver car is a little closer to the camera than it was before.